Hi guys, welcome back to part 2 of the sock monkey. Yesterday we did the ears, the muzzle, mouth, arms, legs, and tail. So now we have to just crochet it all together. Before we do that, we need to make what's called a leg bridge. So it's going to be what we put on between the legs. If I can find the end of my yarn. There we go. So because I wanted a space between the legs, that space between the legs, I had to build something here. So we're going to do that. It's pretty fast and easy peasy. We're just going to jump right into part 2 because this guy is ginormous. So make a slip knot. You're going to chain 5. You're going to do 4 single crochets, back up. You have 4 working chains. Chain 1, turn your work. So you're going to do this. I just lost my thing. Sometimes my computer jumps around. You're going to do this 1 single crochet in each of these 4 stitches for the next 4 rows. So you should have 5 rows altogether. So this is mine. I just fastened off and I'm ready to go. So you're gonna need a needle. Find my needle. There it is. So you're going to need a needle. And then your 2 legs. The one you're still attached with. And then one you fastened off with. So this little leg bridge, one side gets sewn to the edge here. The other side gets sewn to the edge like that. And then we're going to use that to go around and crochet with. So that side and that side have stitches, and the sides that you're going to put on the legs now have no stitches. But the reason I turned it the other way is because I'm just going to use my stragglers to do the sewing. Although now that I'm looking at it, I'm not sure how well that's going to work. Yeah, let's do it this way. And let's do, I'm going to stretch this out. Let's make sure our stitches are on the outside. So put this on here. Actually, I'm going to turn it around. Where there's no stitches, do it like that. This you can use to sew to that one side. This is the awkward part. It's not hard, it's just awkward. And I can't stress enough to make sure that your color jog is in the same position. So I'm gonna sew mine. So the one with the big straggler, I'm going to put on the end that has no yarn on it. So all you're going to do is go stitch for stitch. I know there's no stitches here, but if you use 4 stitches here, just make up 4 stitches there. So for starters, I'm just holding it down like that. This just makes it way easier. So I'm going to use 4 stitches. So I'm going to come back through the same spot I was just in, just so I can make my knot. So go through the loop and then pull. So that's my one side that's on. I'm just going to jam that down in there to hide it. And then I'm going to use this from the actual leg bridge. That's what I call it. I don't know if it has a name. I just call it that. To pop across over here. So I'm just going to take my marker out so it doesn't get in the way. I'm just going to put it on my loop. Sometimes these stitch markers are... I just want to make sure my color jog, there it is not going to be in the front. So decide where you want it. I gotta switch hands. I'm using the wrong hand right now. So decide where you want this, and then you can just hold it up. I know this is so awkward and hard to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to go through my first stitch and into this corner. Go through my second stitch into wherever. No stitches here, so you're just making it up as you go along. Fake it till you make it, as Mikey likes to say. That one into the end there. I'm going to come through again. I'm going to make a knot, so I'm going to go through my loop. I'm going to pull that tight. So now you're wondering, well, what the heck you do with the other straggler? I'll show you in a second. Because that's going to look funny, and it looks like you have another stitch to use. You don't, but it just looks like it. So we're just going to make a knot with this straggler on this side. We're going to come over here. We're going through the same hole, the same stitch we just used with the other straggler. Because we don't want to use any more than 4 stitches, because we didn't do that on the other side. I'm going to come through the loop, make a knot. So all of those pieces get jammed down into my leg. So there is my leg bridge. It looks ridiculous right now, but it'll be perfectly fine after we start crocheting around it, which is what we're going to start with. Leg bridges that are bigger are way more easier to deal with than leg bridges that are short and small like this, but once we start to crochet, it'll be perfectly fine. So this is where my marker was. I'm just going to put my marker back. That's 1 single crochet. You're just going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So that's including your leg bridge. So I had originally wrote down 40 stitches. You have a space here. I would just ignore that space, pull tight. That'll kind of fill in this little gap if you're gapping. So I didn't count my stitches because I was yapping all the way through that. But I wrote down originally that there was 40 stitches. So we're going to start increasing. Your next row is going to be 4 single crochets and an increase. That's number 1. That's 4 single crochets, and then your next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. So you should have 48 stitches. And for the next 24 rows, I want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 48 stitches. And I will see you on the other side. So this is what 24 rows looks like. This is where we're going to put the arms on. So you need to, this is a kind of a hard part because it's hard to get where they're to go and make it even at the same time. So, get one of your arms all set. This is going to be hard to show you. I want to get mine even. So, determining where it should be, you're just going to sew it on, using as many stitches as you want. There's no right or wrong answer here. Make a knot. So you're doing the exact same thing you did with the legs, just without the leg bridge, because we don't need one here for the arms. So I did those 3 stitches, so I'm gonna have to do the same on the other side. Now if your marker is going to be in the way of putting your arm on, just move your marker. It's not a huge, great big deal. Yeah, mine's going to be in the way. So, I'm just going to move my marker over a couple of spots. That's all I need. So, from here, after you get your arms in place, I put a little bit of stuffing in mine. You're just going to do 2 rows of 1 single crochet in each stitch. So, my first monkey that I did, I had 76 stitches around, so I'll count mine and I'll let you know after. And I have moved my marker, but I still count that as number 1. So we have to start decreasing now for the shoulders. You may or may not, depending on your numbers, get your whole decrease in. I tried to keep it even, but this next one is going to be an odd numbered decrease. It is a 4 single crochet decrease. Actually, I don't know if that's necessarily an odd number. It's 5, I suppose, is an odd number, but that's what I started with, because we ended with a 4 single crochet increase. That's 4 single crochets. Now we're not layering our decreases on top of each other. We're doing a row in between of 1 single crochet in each stitch. So you can choose whether this is an invisible decrease or just a regular one. I'm still going to do invisible, even though I'm not stacking, just because it does look nicer. So repeat this all the way around and then do your 1 single crochet in each stitch. After, follow my screen prompts and I will see you on the other side. So I did my 4 single crochet decrease and my 1 single crochet in each stitch. I have 62 stitches. I had 64 on my last doll, so I'm still 2 stitches behind. I've been 2 stitches behind from the beginning. It's not something that's wrong, it's just something that's different. So it's no big deal, it's still going to look like a sock monkey. I had 2 extra stitches after I did my 4 single crochet decrease. I had 2 extra stitches. I just put 1 single crochet in each of those because I could not fit my sequins in. So your next rounds are going to be 3 single crochet decrease and then 1 single crochet in each stitch. Now this is going to bring me down to 50 stitches. I don't know what your numbers are. My last doll, it brought me down to 52 stitches, but I'm 2 stitches behind, so that's number 1. That is 3 single crochets and a decrease. So I'm just doing the invisible ones, which are done in the front loops only, and repeat. And then after you're done this row, do your 1 single crochet in each stitch around, and I will see you on the other side. So now that we've got the shoulders going on here, you can start putting stuffing in this, and I would make sure that you're stuffing into the arm, the shoulder parts really well, because we want those to be, we don't want those to be all saggy. We want those to be actually strong looking shoulders. So we are going to start decreasing some more before we build the head. So just make sure those shoulders are really stuffed well. You don't really have to worry about all this. It's kind of the same deal you do with the here at the legs. Kind of the same idea. You know what's going on. I'm gonna sit my monkey down to do this. All right, so your next round is going to be 2 single crochet decrease. This will bring you down to 40 stitches. This should bring me down to 38 since I'm 2 behind, and then a row of 1 single crochet in each stitch. That's number 1. That's number 2, and then your decrease. So again, I'm doing invisible decreases. So your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and a decrease. This will bring me down to 24 stitches. I don't know what your numbers are once again. And then 1 single crochet in each stitch after this, and then we're going to start increasing for the head. That's why I was making sure there was adequate stuffing in there, and I'll probably do it again before I start building the head. So that's 1 single crochet, that's your marker, and then your decrease. So we're going to start increasing. So make sure this is all stuffed properly in the chest and the shoulder area, because we're going to start building the head. Now, the head's going to get pretty squishy, but it all works out in the end. You may be like, oh my god, it's going to be ginormous, but it's not. It just kind of looks like that sometimes. So I'm just digging a hole with my hand, and I'm shoving stuffing down there just to make sure his chest is a little plumper than his belly area. So we are going to do one single crochet increase. So we're gonna do this nice and gradual. It is going to get squishy though. Sorry, I'm talking with this thing in my mouth. So it's going to get squishy, but this will bring you up to 40 stitches. So one single crochet, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space, and repeat. We're not doing one single crochet row in between our increases like normally I would do. I'm going to jump right into the next increase after this. So for now, just do the one single increase, and I will see you on the other side. So your next increase is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase, and this should bring you up to 52 stitches. I'm just throwing out numbers now. If those are not your numbers and you're a few numbers off, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. That's number 1. That's number 2. And then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. So this is what you got going on here. For the next 12 rows, you're going to put 1 single crochet in each stitch. You should have 52 stitches, or 51, or 53 like me. And then we're going to change to red. So the head's not going to be complete because we have to put this on the top. So this would be the top of the sock originally. So we have to put the top of the sock on. So we're going to do our 12 rows, and then we're going to change to red and do a couple of rows, and then we're going to finish off with a few rows of the white. So that's the plan, Stan. So do your 12 rows of gray or brown or whatever color you're using for your monkey, and I will see you on the other side. Alright, this is my 12 rows. So, this is where we change to red. Fix my ball. So, we're going to change to red. And then we're going to go around 2 more times. So, my last stitch here. My last stitch, I'm going to go in, pull up a loop, and I'm going to add my red. To finish the stitch, I'm going to pull down on everything. So, for the next 2 rows, just 1 single crochet in each stitch with the red, and then we're going to go to the white. So this is where your marker goes. And then, pull my red out a bit. You can take your 2 stragglers after you cut your gray off. Take your 2 pieces, tie them in a double knot. So for the next 2 rows, 1 single crochet in each stitch, and I will see you on the other side. So that's my 2 rows of the red. So I am gonna go into my last stitch, pull up a loop, and add my white. Pull down on everything, nice and tight. And I'm gonna do 1 round of 1 single crochet in each of these stitches for my white, and then we're going to start decreasing for the head. So you can stuff this anytime you want, but if you start stuffing it now, we've got let's see, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 rows left to build. So if you started to stuff it now, you might overstuff it, or I do anyway. So I'm gonna wait until I start decreasing before I stuff it. That way I find I don't overstuff. I know that probably doesn't make sense to you, but my brain, I can't explain it. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around, 1 row with the white, and then we're going to start decreasing. So I will see you on the other side. So every time, we're going to do 2 rows at the same time. Every time we do a decrease row, I'm going to follow it up with a 1 single crochet in each stitch row. So 2 rows at the same time. I generally do that. Makes the video go faster. So your next round is going to be decrease round. It's going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease, followed up by a round of 1 single crochet in each of the 40 stitches that you're going to have when you're done this. So of course everything will go on my screen. You don't have to remember this. That's number 1, that's number 2, and then your decrease. So I'm going to do invisible decreases even though I'm not stacking them. It's just because I've been doing them, so I'm just going to keep it up. So I'll repeat this decrease all the way around, and then your next round will be 1 single crochet in each of these 40 stitches, and I will see you on the other side. Just wanted to make sure there was enough in the neck area so this head's not wobbly. So anyway, your next 2 rounds are going to be 1 single crochet decrease. This will bring you down to 26 stitches. And then you can do 1 single crochet in each of those 26 stitches. For 2 rows actually, so 3 rows. No, I'm talking with the thing in my mouth again. Make my monkey sit. Sometimes it's very difficult to be on camera. So, that's my 1 single crochet. I jump right into my decrease. This will give you 26 stitches. And then after you come back around, I want you to do 2 rows of 1 single crochet in each of those 26 stitches. And then we're still going to decrease again after this, so just make sure you keep stuffing it, and I will see you on the other side. So that's my 2 rows. I've put some stuffing in it. I still got my hole to fill, but I'm going to do my last couple of rounds. This will be 1 single crochet, decrease again, and this will, it's a good thing I changed my camera height, he's sitting down, but it's a big guy. 1 single crochet, decrease again, and this will bring you down to 18 stitches, and that's where we're going to stop. Well, we're not going to stop there. We're going to do a row of the 1 single crochet, but we're going to stop our decreases at 18 stitches. Oops, that's my 1 single crochet, so I jump right into a decrease. The reason why is because it gives a better look, and since the top of this head, I'm stuck on something. Because the top of this head is exposed, like you're always going to see it, we kind of want it to look decent, so that is why I decided to cinch at 18 stitches. So if you want to go smaller, you're more than welcome to, but that's where I'm going to stop, is 18 stitches. So follow my screen prompts, and I will see you on the other side. Alright, that is it. I'm going to fasten off. So you just need a cinching tail and a weaving tail. That is it. So finish stuffing this so we can cinch it. So make sure you're getting it as full as you want it. I like to overstuff mine near the top so the cinch doesn't wrinkle up or anything. So I'm very picky when it comes to the top. So the reason why we're cinching such a big hole is, number 1, I need to keep this head a little rounder. Number 2, it's going to look better. If I did it with a smaller hole, I might have a bit of a point on the top of my head, and I don't want to have a point on the top of my head. On the top of my monkey's head. I don't want one on my head either. So I'm just going to make sure I'm getting right around the ridge as full as I can, so when I pull this down, it's not going to look like it's not stuffed enough. I know everything's pretty white. So you're going to go in the front loop, out the front loop of the next stitch. So you're going to do that all the way around. If you want to skip a stitch, you can do that. I don't think it's that big of a hole that you need to skip any stitches, but you can do whatever you want. It's your project. It's not going to change the look much of what you're cinching. It's still going to cinch perfectly fine. One more and I'm back around in my fasten off spot. And I'm just going to pull, making sure all my stuffing's in there. So if you've pulled this and you find that it's not exactly full enough, it's not locked yet, you can pull that back open and finish stuffing it. But that's what the top's going to look like. I mean, I'm going to pop across so I can pull this hole tight. So come across and then go through the loop, make a knot, pull back and forth, and that closes that hole right up just like that. So that's what the top of your head's going to look like. I like to make 2 knots. So I'm just going to put another one in there. That's just my preference. It's not something you have to do. So that's the top of my head. So now I'm just going to weave. So I'm going to go in as close as I can to this guy. And I'm going to pop out somewhere. I'm going to do it again. Go in as close as I can to that guy. And I'm going to pop out in a different direction. Now try not to pop out of a hole. Try to split the stitches, which means try to pop out where there isn't a hole. Like make a hole. I guess that wasn't on camera. It was pointless. I think everybody knows how to weave, but I mean, if you are new, you can go down through a hole, but when you pop out, I'm still not showing that on camera. It's not translating very well. Anyway, so now that we're done, your sock monkey, you can move some stuffing around too. Reshape his head. So you just need to decide at this point what the front and what the back is. So and my legs down here are got the color change here, so I don't think I really want that to be the front. So I'm going to flip it around, even though I have a color change right there I'm not too happy about. But everything else is normal in the front, so there's no color change showing, like, you know what I mean by color change, this little jog that you get. So that's kind of on the side of my head, so I'm going to try to just kind of put my ear there to take away. And I think my other one was like that. Yeah, my other one was like that too. I had the jog on the side, so I just put the ear there to take away from it. So, no big deal. So once you decide where you want him, what side you want him to be on, we can start sewing on things. And I would suggest, since the only two things that go on his face are his muzzle, I turn it sideways. So his muzzle, which goes on like this. Keep in mind, this gets stuffed. So that goes on like that. So that'll look better when it's stuffed. I'm just trying to see. And then you need buttons for the eyes. I have a whole bag of different buttons. So I got my two eyes. They're the same ones I used on my last one. So you just need to figure out where those are going to go. I put mine fairly close together. So that's what he's going to look like with his ears. This will look better once it's sewn on. So I'm going to get the muzzle sewn on. Then, and stuffed, then I can worry about my eyes. I don't sew well, so I'm going to find this about the same as I found my first one. Quite awkward to do. Move my eyes before I knock them all over the place. My table is not big enough for this dude. So you just got to make sure that you're taking your time and putting this in the right spot. You can do whatever kind of stitches you want. I just went in and out of my stitches, which means after I go in there, I go back up the same stitch I just came out, and I go into the very next stitch beside it. Then I go down into the next stitch. Make sure you're popping out an actual hole instead of just between the stitches. And then you got to go back up the same hole and into the next stitch. So that's how I'm going to do mine. So if it helps, I went from here, underneath here, and I stopped. I stuffed it, and then I pinned it. So it's easier to pin it once it's stuffed. So I only went halfway around. I'm still sewing, but I only went halfway around, stuffed it, and now this side's pinned, and I'm just working my way along. I'm probably got enough yarn that I'm going to go around again, just for added security, because I'm anal like that. So that's what I'm doing, if that's any sort of help at all. Although I am not a sewer. I just found it easier to keep the shape that it's supposed to be by doing that. And if you feel that you still need a little bit more, you can still shove. I feel like I need some up in the front here. And I'll just use my end of my hook to pack it in. So this is my last stitch. If I was stopping, that's where I started, but I've got enough yarn that I'm going to go around again. So I am back around to this is where I started here. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to pop up the top of the head. You can weave once you get up here. Let me turn my doll because you don't know where I'm talking. I gotta put my, I came undone. That's what I'm doing. Trying to fix what I just did wrong. Now if you didn't go around twice, that's fine. You don't have to do what I do. So I'm at the top of the head. I'm just gonna weave. And when I went around the second time with the muzzle, I split more stitches just because I find that when you do that, you're kind of opening it up to excuse me. You're kind of opening it up to a better grip. If that makes sense, that's my personal thought. So that is that for that. So now we just do our eyes. Oh, that's a little high. There, you just gotta put your head back into shape. There we go. Now we just gotta get the ears sewn on, and I gotta change my battery. So the ears that we made get sewn on open. So they get sewn on open and concaved, not stuffed. And they go on the side of the head. They don't go anywhere near the top. It's a monkey, so it goes on the side of the head. Which is how we're gonna take away from this jog area if you have it there. So it's gonna be very difficult for me to sew this on camera, so I'm gonna leave you to sew the ears on, and I'll meet you back to get the tail done. Lots to do. So, let me tell you what I did. I laid the ear down like this, and I went in and out of the back stitches. And then I came in and I popped out right at the top. I folded the ear back. I pulled this forward, so I left a little gap about like this, and I went in and out of the front stitches. I got to the corner. I went in, down, underneath the whole ear, and I popped out here, and then I moved my yarn back to here. This is my sewing tail. I'm going to sew on my other ear the same way, and then my leftover yarn I'm going to pop out into the same spot. I'm going to tie a knot, and I'm going to cut it off and poke it down. That way those two ears are going to be tied together on the inside of the head. Do you see what I'm saying? I generally always do that, and I never really put it on camera. Now, because these are on top of each other, still open, but they're laying on top of each other, when I go down into the stitch, I'm pulling it forward into a different spot so that I have that gap. But ears are very difficult, and I know that I'm sewing mine on probably different than most because I don't sew very well, but I find this easy for me, but you may not necessarily agree. So I'm right on the corner here. That's where I go down, and I go across the whole bottom of the ear. I know, it's so hard to see what I'm doing. I said I wasn't going to show you on camera because I couldn't. And then I give it a really nice snug pull. It kind of sucks it in. And then I'm going to go down the same hole. Like I came up here, but you don't need to come up exactly here. I'm going to go down the same hole. If your needle's like mine and it's not long enough, you'll have to maybe walk your way to that same spot. Just make sure that you're in the same spot. And then some nice snug pulls to make sure your ears are okay. I hope to God mine are even. I can't really tell right now. And then you're going to do a double knot, triple knot, whatever you want to do. The consensus is that if somebody's tugging on your ears, this knot's going to get lodged into the stuffing. They won't be able to pull it off. They'll probably get it loose. You'll have to sew it back on, but they're not going to be able to pull it off. So I'm going to cut this off, leaving a nubby. And then I'm going to poke all of this down inside the stuffing. Now generally when people sew stuff on in crochet, they would have done the exact same thing for each ear, but I like to tie them together. So I don't know if they're even. They look alright. One looks bigger than the other. I don't know why. One must be tighter. I did them on 2 different days. So this is why you don't do things on 2 different days, because one is loosey tension, one is tighty tension. Anyway, it's okay. It's alright. So the tail, I did a mattress stitch for the tail, honestly. It goes in such a weird spot. But I wanted it to look like it was crocheted on. So you want it to at least be longer than your legs, right? So you kind of got to sew it right down near the crotchal area. That's where it's going to go. This is very awkward to sew on because you got to hold it with one hand and sew with the other. which is why I chose to do a mattress stitch. Number one, it looks better. And number two, it was way easier to do because I only had the one hand. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to grab a piece of yarn on the body. And then I'm going to come up and I'm going to grab a stitch on the tail. So you don't have to pull tight now. You can always pull tight later, but I generally just kind of pull as I go. So again, I'm going to grab a stitch on the body and grab some stitches up here. You can do 2 at a time. You can do 1 at a time. It's completely up to you. Just know that I went around twice. This pin is not helping. So I went around 2 times, like I generally do with a mattress stitch. When you're putting on something so small, I like to go around twice, one a little higher than the other. So I know you can't see what I'm doing. It's very difficult, but so now that I've got my first go around done, sorry, this is so hard to do on camera. So I changed the position where I grab now that I've got the first go. Now I'm going to grab higher on the monkey's body. Tail's down here. I'm going to grab way up here, and then I'm going to grab the tail. So you got quite a distance, and pull. So again, you don't have to pull now, you can pull later, but so I'm going to grab way up here. I'm doing 2 stitches at a time. I know my hands are all in the way. And I'm going to grab 2 stitches down here. 2 stitches out here. So do you see all my strings? I haven't pulled yet. And then 2 stitches on the tail. You can pull this anytime you want. You just gotta give it a nice tug, and that's what you get. Oh, that doesn't look as bad as it did on camera in person. So you just keep going. So that's a double mattress stitch for the tail, so that it doesn't look like it's sewn on, it looks like it's crocheted on. And then you can pull that super duper tight. And that is how we're going to sew our tail on. So hopefully yours turned out okay. I'm going to go down and weave. I'm sure the tail, if this is going to a child, is going to get grabbed a lot, and probably the monkey's going to get swung around a lot. So if I weave a lot, chances of that tail, and I'm going to split stitches too as I weave, chances of that tail coming off gets smaller. But you do have to go in different directions. So once you are satisfied with what you've done, make sure you come out an actual hole. Then you can tie a knot for added security. Cut your yarn off, leaving a little nubby, and poke it down. And we are done See, my tail is longer than my legs because I sewed it right down onto the bum. So that's what my tail looks like. You know, it's kind of hard to see, but it just looks like it's crocheted on with doing the mattress stitch. So that's my guy. He's so super duper cute. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I love this. One of my favorite projects to do. Even though it was big and it was long, it was one of my favorite projects to do. I love the sock monkey. So I'm super duper happy that I finally decided I was going to do it. Again, thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you in the next video.